Hi, everyone. This is Jay Rosenzweig, the founder and CEO of BirthParentFinder.com. And today I have on with me Sharon Peacock. Sharon became a client of ours more than 2 years ago, and she was looking for her birth father. Hi, Sharon. How are you?
Hi, Jay. I'm great. Thanks so much for having me.
You're welcome. And we're glad you're here because after 2.5 years, your case is finally solved. We found your birth father and you've been in contact with him. But before we get into all that, I'd like to know from you your story that you were adopted in 1974, that you were conceived in Mexico and born in Dade County, Florida. So tell me all about that.
Okay, so I was conceived in Mexico. I was born in Florida, and my adopted parents were living in New York. They flew down to Florida to get me, brought me back to New York, raised me, and I was told at the very young age of 5 that I was adopted. So I spent, basically my whole life wondering, do I have family out there? Who's out there? Should I search? Shouldn't I search? So it took a little while. My adopted mother rather, was not in favor of my searching, but my adopted father was in favor of my searching. So when I was 30 years old, I finally said, let's do it. It's time, and began the search first with my birth mother and then with my birth father.
And you told me that your adopted mother passed away when you were 23.
Correct.
And after that, you decided now's the time to start searching for your birth parents.
Right, right. And it was a closed adoption, so I really didn't know how to start. It was a complete and total fluke. It was literally 30 seconds of searching to find my birth mother. It was insane. My father had given me a ton of stuff when my mother had passed away, and he was like, this is now all on you. You take care of all this. So over time, I would go through it a little, boxes and boxes at a time, and I found my adoption paperwork.
Mm.
And interestingly enough, being 1974, they had typed in the information, which the typewriter leaves an impression on the paper. And apparently, they had typed my birth mother's name into the paperwork and then used whiteout to eliminate it. So it was like playing a scratch off. I just scratched the whiteout off the paperwork, and bam, there was her name. And I knew where she was from because the paperwork said that it was a hardship for her to appear at the adoption hearing because she lived in Orlando, Florida. So I typed in her name and Orlando, Florida, and the year of my birth, and she was the first hit to come up. And I went right to her Facebook, and there she was.
And what year was that?
So that would have been 2000. I believe it was around 2010 or 2011.
That was only
Uh,
a few years after Facebook went public, basically.
yeah, yeah,
And
it was
when you
crazy.
when you reached out to her, what was her reaction?
It took her a couple months to respond to me. I sent her. I actually had a friend who had given a child up for adoption, and her daughter had reached out to her when she was a teenager. So I said, "What would you have wanted her to say to you? What would have made it easier to be approached?" And using that information, I wrote. She was like, "Keep it high level, just kind of like a Reader's Digest introduction. This is me. This is my life. I'd love to talk to you if you're interested." So it took her a couple months, and I got a thick packet back from her, a very, very thick, long letter, handwritten, saying how this was a day she dreamed of her whole life, but thought would never come. And she was excited to know me, and she was thrilled to hear, you know, how many similarities we had, which was incredible to the whole nature versus nurture. I mean, was just amazing. So we began corresponding. She did let me know she wasn't comfortable letting her family know about me, and I told her that was fine. I wasn't looking to cause drama, or I just wanted to meet her and know her. And so we met for the first time in, it would have been around late, I can get you the exact date, but it was late 2011 or early 2012. I did a road trip to Florida with my youngest son, who was about 2 years old at the time. And we stopped in Orlando and sat at a Chick-fil-A for about 5 hours.
And she gave you obviously a lot of information.
Yes, she gave me a wealth of information. She told me this incredible story, the story of my birth and my origin. I mean, it was like it couldn't have been better written by Shakespeare. They met. She was studying abroad. She was living with his family, his extended family, while he was studying at the same university to become an engineer. And they were, two teenagers who fell in love. And even after, so when she got pregnant, her father became sick. She came back to the United States and she gave me up for adoption. And then she returned to Mexico. They were together for
Wow.
almost 5 more years. He even came to the United States to visit her. So she said so many wonderful things about him. She just, would share pictures with me that she had. I was only given two that I could keep, but she would show me some other pictures she had of him, and just spoke so highly of him. But some of the information that I was given was incorrect, which made it a little more difficult to look for him. And the
Right. So
one piece was last name.
let's back it up. So after she got pregnant and had you were placed for adoption, and then she went back to Mexico.
I don't know how soon after, but yeah, shortly thereafter, she did go back.
So
to
what
Mexico.
did she tell your birth father about the pregnancy?
Well, he knew she was pregnant when she was still in Mexico. He wanted to marry her. He was ready to drop out of college and get a job and support his family and do everything he needed to do to take care of her and the baby. She did not want to do that. She was only 17 years old. And so she went back to the United States, found an adoption lawyer, and that's the place where she stayed at in Miami. It was a group home for pregnant girls who were putting their babies up for adoption. But she stayed in contact with him the entire time they were there. She sent me several letters that she had written during that time period, where he was saying, he was asking about the baby and how's the baby doing. And what she ended up telling him, because she said she knew he would never agree to sign adoption papers, was she told him that I was stillborn.
Wow. And his reaction must have been just crazy. We'll get into that also, but
yeah.
But that's what she told him, that you died at birth, basically.
Yes.
And any other information she gave you about him for tracking him down, or was she even in favor of you tracking him down?
She was very much so against tracking him down. Her words were, "He's a very good man. He doesn't deserve this." And you could take it from either side. Do you want to upset someone's life? Or at the same point, what about my thoughts and feelings and my wanting to find my father and my family, and let them know I am here, I am alive. So I decided to go with what my gut had told me and start pursuing him.
So how long had you looked for him before you hired my company?
Let's see. So probably several years. I probably started the search right around 2013, 2014. And then I came to you, I believe, around 2019, 2020, looking for help.
The beginning of 2021.
2021, was it? Oh gosh, it feels like it was longer than that. So yeah. So I've been searching for him for probably about 10 years altogether. So once I knew who he was, I was ready.
I remember you came to us, and we looked at your case, and we actually charged you more money than the average person because we knew we may have to go to Mexico at some point. And that was part of the deal. That included going to Mexico in our fee. And we normally don't like doing that. We have people down there that do that work. So you had a name. You only had a first name of Luis, correct? Just that. And all we knew was his approximate age. He was in college in Guanajuato, Mexico, correct?
Correct. University of Guanajuato.
Right. And he later on possibly worked for Pemex Oil Company.
That's what I was told.
Okay. So what we did was I took this case and gave it to my genealogist to look at relatives to see if we can find him through the DNA relatives. It was Ancestry.com, 23andMe. We uploaded it to GEDmatch, FTDNA, and all the sites, all the DNA sites. Mm-hmm. And the closest relative we got, I think, was maybe a third cousin.
Yes.
Yes. And that's pretty low. And we don't know where these people are. They're not in the U.S. and we can't reach out to them. So what we did was we sent an investigator to Guanajuato, to that area, to Pemex, with the picture you had of your birth father and his sister when they were in their early 20s. Sister must have been younger, right?
Yes, his sister was probably about, in the picture, she was probably about 13, 14.
Okay, yeah, but she was definitely younger.
Yeah.
So we went to the Pemex Corporation, and my investigator met with HR there, and they were great. And we had a long report for you about what they
Mhm.
said. They did the research. They put the math together with the timeline, and they came up empty. Completely came up empty. So now we're back to square one. And later on, this case was sitting for a while because you look for closer DNA relatives to come along. So you and I we worked great together. It was a great team. We went through the DNA, looked at the relatives' names, and then we went through Facebook. And I don't know how Facebook is in Mexico, but for some reason, these people, this whole family, was on Facebook.
Every one of them.
And I didn't even cross my mind that would even happen. So going through their Facebook friends, going through their family, going through the comments, the likes, seeing all these relatives, we found a Luis Rosales.
Mm-hmm.
He had pictures. Well, he didn't have any pictures. His wife had pictures. And
Right.
there was a picture of Luis and his wife. I'm looking at this guy's face, and I looked at the picture you provided from him back in around 74. It's the same guy. It has to be. It has to be the same guy. And in his bio, it said that he was in the oil business. Not Pemex. Didn't really say what company. Mind you, he's much, much older now. This was 1974. So over a period of months and many months, you and I both reached out to maybe 30 or 40 of the Facebook relatives. But, they don't see those messages because we're not Facebook friends with them. Then I tried Facebook friending some of them. Didn't get a response. I got a response from no one after that time period. Zero. And I said to you, go ahead, reach out to his family members. And then what happened?
So I decided to reach out to his sister, who was in one of the pictures that I had, sent her the picture, and I said, hi, I hope you can help me. I am looking for the people who are in this picture. Might you be the woman who is in this picture? And she immediately responded. I couldn't, it was instant. She was like, who is this? Where did you get this picture? Because she knew, she later told me that as soon as she saw the picture, she knew who took the picture. So then she began asking me. I said, well, my mother gave it to me. And she goes, who's your mother? And I said, my mother is, I gave her my mother's information, my mother's name, her age. And she said that was one of my friends. She couldn't believe it. She was shocked. It took her a moment to process, but then she became extremely overjoyed and excited. And she asked that she be the one to tell my father. She wanted to be the one to share the news with him. And we moved from there, and the news has just spread like wildfire amongst the family.
So they knew this wasn't a scam, that you were the real deal at what point?
Almost immediately, because when I, when they said, send us a picture of your mother. So, I sent them pictures that I had, both recent from Facebook and older ones that I'd had from when they had first met. And they were like, there's no question. This is, we know. And so as soon as she told my birth father, he knew, he was like, there, he goes, there's no question. Everybody had asked him if he wanted to do a DNA test. And he's like, I don't need a DNA test. I know this is my daughter. Everything lines up. This is true. Look at her. So now they surprised me yesterday with a video call with one of my uncles who is retired and lives up on the coast. And he came to visit, and he was very emotional and very excited. And they're all looking at me. They're all going, look at her face. She's a Dominguez. There's no question.
Have you seen him on video chat?
Yes, we did a video chat for the very first time on Friday.
And this is an amazing story, because this doesn't always work out that way, especially someone in a country that's pretty remote. And the DNA wasn't good. The information we had wasn't good. And you told me that he told you he never worked for Pemex. He worked for a different company, correct?
Correct. He's like, with Pemex, you never would have found me. Even with the company he's retired from now, we never would have found him. he had to move every 2 years with his job. So
And he lives
yeah,
in Veracruz, Mexico, correct?
correct.
And his wife, how is she to all this?
She's still processing it. She's, not, but she was only, my father said that she was only about 12 years old when I would have been born. So it
Um,
wasn't like there was a jealousy factor or, like he was seeing two women at the same time. He's like, she just needs time to process
right,
it.
and she will, and he
Yeah.
doesn't speak English, correct?
He does speak a little. He used to speak more English than he did. So now he's like, okay, we're going to practice me and my English and you and your Spanish. He's like, but I'm old. And I'm like, you're not that much older than me. So,
That's true. So he did send a message to me and my company, and it was translated by you into English, correct? And I want to read
mhm.
that message. It says, "Thank you very much for looking for me, because otherwise I would have died without knowing that I had a daughter and 3 grandchildren. Thank you very much to your research team. A big hug for each one of them." And that's just beautiful. We love that. And he doesn't have daughters, and now he does.
He didn't have any daughters and he didn't have any grandchildren. So his response to me, the very first response he had was that he felt a daughter had fallen from heaven. And it's been very emotional. And to have suddenly woken up one day and now he's got a daughter and 3 grandchildren, and he's been in contact with my one son who's in the Navy and is stationed overseas. So he's actually been able to chat with him, and he's over the moon. He absolutely loves it.
And you said he does have a passport. Is that correct?
Yes.
So, but you're going to go see him in Mexico in September, perhaps.
Yes, that's the current plan, because it's more than just meeting him. It's meeting all my aunts and uncles and cousins. They are all on Facebook, and my messenger. I have never in all the years I've been on Facebook. It might be Facebook Marketplace or someone sending me an article, but I every day I have tons of messages from my aunts, my uncles, my cousins, everybody wanting to get to know me, and it's just overwhelming. It's incredible. From being raised as an only child with no cousins to now suddenly having this immense, grandiose, loving, warm everyone. They're just incredible. Talking about how excited they are and how grateful they are, and that God has blessed us and brought us all together. It's been phenomenal.
And we work a lot of these cases where people are looking for their birth mothers, their birth fathers, and women especially want that connection with their birth father.
Mm.
Um, and in your case, you had a void to fill. You really did. And how does that make you feel now?
It's incredible. When I first saw his face on the camera, um, and to see his smile and just his little facial movements when he's telling a joke, and it, it's the most incredible feeling. It's like there's this instant connection, and I just want to reach through the screen and hug him and never let go. He's so incredible, and he's so warm and so loving, and it's like coming home, you know.
So your birth mother, you told me that you did tell her that you found him. What was her reaction?
I have not yet gotten a reaction from her. Um, we'll see. She may respond to me. She may not. I don't know. When I did tell her I was planning to search for my father, she was very upset. So she had unfriended me on Facebook. It was in increments where she would block her friends, then stop following me, and then unfriended me, and now I'm blocked. I can't even find her on Facebook.
And that
So
doesn't really bother you, does it?
it doesn't. It doesn't. I mean, I can, I can respect her wishes. I don't want to invade her privacy. I don't want her to feel like she owes me anything or she's obligated to anything. But it also feels a little hurtful, like I think I've proven that I'm not, an aggressive or invasive person. I'm not looking. I don't have an ulterior motive, And I said, look, I just want to be friends. You seem pretty fantastic. I just want to be friends with you. So it is a little hurtful, but
But you
we'll
wouldn't trade this
see.
for the world, though, would you?
Oh gosh, this was, and one of the things that my father and my aunt said to me, on our first call was that if I ever do reconnect with Marion, they want her to know that they are not angry, that my father is very appreciative of what she had done, that, he agrees. He's like, we would never, he's like, I never would have signed you away, even if my mother had to raise you, or,
So
my
your birth
brothers and
mother was
sisters.
right
Yeah,
on those feelings and that what
right.
they would have done.
Yeah,
And,
they
and,
would
and
have
we've
thought
had
she,
cases very similar to this, where I reach out to a birth father who did not know that he had it. In those cases, he did not know he had a child. The birth mother never told him. And
mhm.
when I reach out to him, they're livid. They could, because I would have raised that child. My family would have raised that child. We would have done everything we could to
Yeah,
support that child with love and care. And then 30 years later, whenever the child grew up and met their birth father, they begin a whole new relationship and start all over. And obviously you're not 30, but you're going to be starting that relationship now.
yeah, yeah. And it's incredible, and everyone is so joyful about it. And there's no anger, there's no frustration, no animosity. I was like, hey, look, you got the kids and the grandkids without the diapers. So without having to deal with the teenage drama. So we've got a lot to catch up on, and it's just absolutely amazing it to have the warmth and welcome and the reception, because I didn't know, would they have been upset? Would they have said, you know what, you haven't been around, we don't need you, you've got a life, leave us alone. And they're not like that at all. They're every day, we're just checking on you. I hope you're having a wonderful day. We can't wait to hug you. How are the boys? How's work going? I mean, it's just it's incredible.
It's a perfect story. It's a perfect ending. And with a new beginning starting in September where you're going to meet him, hopefully. And if I can, I would love to be there.
Oh, absolutely. We would love to have you there. It's going to be, I mean, everybody's already starting to plan where we're going to meet, what we're going to do. I'm like, oh, this is going to be big. This is going to be a very, very big week-long family gathering reunion. All
Right.
the aunts, uncles, cousins. It's going to be amazing.
Right. So I must say that there's clients that are very impatient. You are definitely not one of those. You waited over 2 years to solve this case, and you were wonderful to work with, I must say.
Well, I appreciate your being willing, one, to take the case on, and two, continuing to push through with it. I mean, it's something you could have looked at and been like, look, this is Mexico. There's so many missing pieces to the DNA. Don't know if we'll ever find it. And you were quick to respond to me whenever I had a question. You were patient with my anxiety, like, God, are we ever going to get to this point of finding him? You were very good at tempering me and saying, look, I'm going to do what I can. Let me send an investigator. Let's see what the next steps, be patient. Let me try to work on this. It's going to take some time. Your genealogist was fantastic in sending me updates on the report as things were coming through, and matching things up. I can go into Ancestry right now and see all the different notes that were taken and who was reached out to and who was contacted, and where they fall in the tree. And that's just amazing to see as well, because somebody who's not a genealogist, who doesn't have all that knowledge on how the DNA works and what the percentages mean and all that data means, to go in there can be very overwhelming. So to have someone dedicated who's interested and wants to power through and solve that puzzle, it's amazing to have such an incredible team behind you to power this search.
And thank you. I really appreciate it. We do try as hard as we can, and we want an outcome like you had. It doesn't always work out that way. It really doesn't. Sometimes, there's cases where we do find the people, but they want no part of it. And this is not one of those cases. And this is just one perfect end result. Now, I wanted to ask you, I mean, you've had an interesting life, and we went over
That's
that.
for
And
sure.
one thing, this will go out to the public eventually, but one thing that you told me was from the documentary Three Identical Strangers, the story of the triplets that were separated at birth.
Mhm.
You are cousins with one of the triplets, the one that committed suicide, correct?
Correct, Eddie. Yes, Eddie
Eddie, what
Galan.
is Eddie's relation to you?
So Eddie's father, Elliot, was first cousins with my grandmother, and they were so close. They were like siblings. And they were very, very close all the way up. My grandmother passed away at 90. She and Elliot had a pact that they would both live until they were 90 years old. So they were very, very, very close with each other. And when My adopted mother uh, was in the hospital. She had cysts on her ovaries and was told she had cysts the size of a grapefruit. And when she had surgery, the doctor told her that it was unlikely she would ever be able to have children. So my parents were devastated. You know, what were they going to do? Well, Elliot and his wife Annette said, listen, we've adopted. We will walk you through this process. We will help you find a lawyer. We will help you all the way through the process. So they helped all the way through, you know, finding the lawyer and bringing me home, getting everything set up. Um, I mean, and Annette and Elliot, they were fantastic. They even they met my children. Last time I had gone to Florida when my grandmother had passed away, my youngest and I went out to lunch with Elliot, you know, to reminisce and talk about my grandmother and the lady that she was. And it's just been incredible because they were really, you know, for them to have been through everything they had gone through and experienced, to then step up and help my parents and guide them through the adoption process and figuring things out and how to bring a child home.
Right. So this is sort of like an extension of that story.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
And you sent me some information about some of the things that happened in your life that you'd like to share with us. Give me some examples.
Oh my gosh. They talk about, you know, everybody, there's 6 degrees of separation, right? And thanks to my adopted father, I feel like it's really more like a 2 degrees of separation, you know, from everyone, from me or my father. You know, I had grown up on the Upper East Side of New York and was, you know, fortunate enough to attend a prep school. That was the choice my parents made, and that's why I was an only child, because they couldn't. They made the choice to send me to a private school and give me a really, really great life as opposed to spending the money to adopt another child. They decided to invest all in on me. So I did get to go to school with, I had some interesting stories about celebrities and their families and their children that I attended school with, as well as, you know, employees, people who lived in my father's building. My father worked for Donald Trump. And my parents actually had attended Donald's wedding to Marla Maples.
Wow.
So we joke, I'm divorced from my first husband, but I actually have a set of crystal because we got married shortly after Donald and Marla got married. So my parents invited them. So we have crystal from them. And I got that in the divorce. You know, so, I mean, good gosh, it's like there's so many stories, so many people I've known and crossed paths with. Throughout my career and throughout my life that has just been amazing. Um, Attended an Upper East Side prep school called York Prep. At the time, you know, we all know about the preppy murder, Robert Chambers. Those of us who lived in New York in the 80s, and he went to my school as well. That was where I attended high school, middle school, and high school. Phenomenal school. that wasn't the best time to be attending because unfortunately there was times where we had unwanted press outside of the school, but we still had a lot of great celebrities who attended my school. I attended other classmates I had. Liv Tyler graduated from my high school. She was there at the same time that I was. We did have one class together. Sweetest person I have ever met in my entire life. Absolutely sweet and so funny. Everybody loved her. I think she was the most popular person in the entire school because she just had the best personality ever.
So it sounds like your birth mother made the right decision.
Yeah.
She put
Yeah.
you in a good home. Your adopted parents took good care of you. Look at you now. You're a successful business person. And I believe you told me you got promoted.
Yes. Yes. I
Wonderful.
am. It's been an incredible couple weeks here in our house. A lot of excitement and a lot of nonstop good news going on.
Wonderful. And Sharon, again, thank you so much for doing this. And we look forward to possibly being with you in September. We know you're going to visit your father in Mexico. And like I said, we'll keep in touch and we'll hear more about this story.
Absolutely. Thank you so much again, Jay, for everything you've done and for bringing our family together. There never will be enough words to express my gratitude for all you've done.
And you're very welcome, Sharon. Thank you.
Why was she given up for adoption in the first place? Because her mother didn't want to be a single parent?
It's a crazy story.
So this whole time, didn't know he had a daughter?
He had no idea.
Wow.
Her birth father was told that she lost the child at childbirth.
Oh, wow.
Stillborn.
Wow.
So just imagine how emotional this guy was.
Yeah.
And he told me, I now have a daughter that fell from heaven. Sharon found out when she was a young girl that she was adopted. She had a great life, and after her adopted parents passed, she decided, I'm going to search for my birth family.
I spent, basically my whole life wondering, do I have family out there? Who's out there? Should I search? Shouldn't I search? When I was 30 years old, I finally said, let's do it. It's time.
It says, thank you very much for looking for me, because otherwise I would have died without knowing that I had a daughter and 3 grandchildren. Thank you very much to your research team. A big hug for each one of them.
If you would like to find more information about how Jay does what he does and follow the good work that he does, all you have to do is visit birthparentfinder.com or follow Birth Parent Finder on our various forms of social media.